This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
Growing in faith requires us to take our eyes off ourselves and place them fully on the character of God. So often, when we say we want to grow in our faith, we make an effort to do something that displays a godly character. But living in a godly way should be a byproduct of our knowledge of the true nature of God and the result of our being connected to Jesus by the Holy Spirit. When we believe God's word over what other people say is right or true, then we will be set free to walk in holiness and victory. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. John 8:32. Writes Sue Corl in Broken but Undefeated, Journeying Through the Hall of Faith. Valeria interviews Sue Corl. She is the author of Crown of Beauty, a 12-week women's Bible study, renewed in his intimate love and delight, Broken but Undefeated, Journeying Through the Hall of Faith, For Such a Time as This, Walking Through Crisis, and many other titles. Sue Corl is an international women's conference speaker, author, mentor, Bible teacher, missionary, founder, and executive director of Crown of Beauty International, and His Heartbeat podcast host. Her greatest joy is being a wife and mother of 2 adult children. She has a passion to see women set free to live in the powerful truths of who they are in Christ and the love of God. She served as a missionary for 25 years in Asia. Currently, she travels to minister to women throughout Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and the U.S. She has a Master's of Education from the University of Hawaii and a Master's of Christian Counseling from Philadelphia Biblical University. She is the author of several books, including Crown of Beauty, 12-week Bible study, For Such a Time as This, and Broken but Undefeated. Meet Sue at crownofbeautyinternational.com and sue-corl.com. Here's the interview with Sue Corl.
In your own words, who is Sue Corl?
Oh, well, I would say that I am a beautiful child of God who loves people, loves my family, loves every animal I think on the planet.
Yeah.
Really love animals. Who has been on a journey with God of finding wonderful freedom and healing and wanting to bring that to women especially, but even families and men around the world.
Yes, yeah. I'm familiar with your work, and it's such a beautiful service to humanity as I see it. And I guess I say it that way because it seems like we have lost the way of our own selves, of our own heart, of what really matters in a way. I have been feeling this way pretty much all my life, starting with myself, my own understanding of self and the world, and then just observing people around me. So talk to me for a moment about why women? Why do you feel we are actually more in need of this kind of service, or it's just a particular niche per se that you chose to take on?
No, I wouldn't say a niche at all. I think men need it too, but I feel like because I'm really speaking to deep heart issues of women, the wounds they've gone through, the struggles they face, and I feel like they're unique. Like there are some things that are common, and yet even the way that we build friendships, the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we view our needs being met is different. And the way even that we view God, the way we have a relationship with God is very unique, I think, from men and men from women. Of course, there's overlap as well. So sometimes my husband and we will teach together. I'll have another brother who will join me. But at parts of our conferences, because I'm a international speaker, at parts of our conferences, we definitely split up. And especially when we meet in small groups to really open our heart up to each other, it's just different. So I tend to focus on women, but not in every case. I have some messages that I have one for those who've been through trauma that I do with a lot of refugees around the world. And I love when the guys are there. It's really fun, and they're so hungry to hear how they can not just survive, but really thrive and move forward, even though they've lost everything.
Yes. Wow. That must be amazing to be in touch with this kind of, let's say, experience, right, in life.
Yeah.
That must be very different. As you said, it's the uniqueness of each experience, of each gender. I agree. We express
culture too.
Yes, right. So it's culture. Yes, absolutely. So you are an international women's conference speaker, an author of 7 books, a mentor, a Bible teacher, missionary. You're also the founder and executive director of Crown of Beauty International, and you also host a podcast titled His Heartbeat with Sue Corl. So you've been doing a lot of amazing work. So the question that, if I didn't know, would come right away is, what inspired you to do all this and keep doing it in such a graceful way?
Thank you. Yeah, it really goes back to my experience from when I was born. I was born with no nose, no upper lip, no upper palate, had heart problems, breathing issues. I had 26 surgeries during the first 15 years of my life. I had speech therapy. I had special diets. And it was hard. The hardest part, though, really was when I began school and children, particularly boys, would tease me. And I heard that day in and day out. And finally, it went to the deepest part of my soul that I truly believed I was rejectable, unlovable, ugly, and could never be loved by a man. And that was obviously really difficult. And as I got into college, it led to a lot of abusive relationships and more painful times, and nearly an alcohol addiction. But God really set me free from that. That's when I began my faith and began to discover how He sees me, that He doesn't see me that way. And a lot through the Bible, actually, a lot of people think the Bible is irrelevant today, but it's so not. It's so timeless, especially the New Testament. Psalms are beautiful too, and other stories, and I found that my Father adores me, and my earthly father, he loves me, but not like God the Father, the way that He loves me. And I really identify also with Jesus, who would call me His bride. And it's like, wow, so I am married, and God brought a wonderful husband into my life when I was mid-30s. And that's been beautiful to have 2 incredible children. So what happened is I was overseas living in Asia. And my job was to meet with, I worked for a company where we would meet with different leaders of teams. They were like teaching teams or business teams. And I was to meet with the women and find out how they were doing in their teaching or their business and how the team was doing. And they were all doing poorly. But as I would share my own story and how God brought me into a place of peace and of joy and of a sense of loving myself and loving others and loving God more, they would get free, so whatever was the reason for their poor job performance or poor relationships with coworkers or with their husband or even struggles with kids would get resolved because they felt wonderful now about who they were and who God is to them. And so that is why I began, I would call it a ministry, to help again, mostly women, but also men and women and children we started reaching out to as well with this beautiful message.
Yes, and it is truly beautiful. Like I mentioned off record, and I often speak here on this podcast about my understandings of myself and reality too, that has this underlying truth of spiritual. We can call it spiritual love, God's love. Perhaps I don't use those terms. Yeah, of course, it feels like that from the human experience, the body mind. But there is something more expansive in a way when I try to kind of bring that perfume to this reality of body mind. There's something about unconditional freedom, unconditional presence. It's almost like as if it's okay to have this experience. It's just an experience anyway of body mind to be here. So it's almost as if God kind of led. If God was a father, mother, a parent, would just let its children to just go there and have fun, kind of experience the world, and no matter what, I'm here for you. I will never leave you. So it feels something like that. So it's not really, I know the perspective is different, but very much feels that way. So talk to me about this faith component, because in my case, it doesn't require faith. It really feels more like an experience, like moment by moment that there's something that embraces this experience right here, right now. And I know I'm not alone in the sense that I'm not just the body mind. There's a spirit here. So how would you explain that? How do you feel when you say, you speak of freedom, which is beautiful too. So what does it do, like in your life? Of course, we can see clearly for what you're doing, the way you're expressing yourself in this life. It's truly beautiful. And really, it can show, it is a showing thing. So we can tell. But how did you kind of got to trust that? Was it a moment in time when you said, this is it? And then you felt that way, that embrace from God per se, in every moment after that? Or that's something that you had to practice to always go back to in order to stabilize that faith?
There's definitely some really powerful moments for me, I can say, where I very much experienced the living God, the presence of Him with me, even physically felt His presence for sure. And that is definitely helpful, when you're having times where you're not feeling that, because it's not going to be that every moment. At the same time, for me, what also guides that is, we call it, not just people say the Bible, but a lot of us will call it the living word, because the Spirit of God is infused in that. And He says, when you read it, the Spirit will illuminate it to your mind, to your heart. And so I'll be reading, or as my son put it recently, because for a while he just he'd start to read and he'd be like, oh, this doesn't really apply, and he'd stop.
Yes.
And then one day he thought, well, I don't do that to friends. I don't just say, hey, you know what? They didn't meet my needs today, so I'm not going to be their friend tomorrow. He's a really loyal friend, actually. He's a type friends for life. And he said, I guess I should try that, So he went into it like that. And sure enough, he was having some struggle. I don't know, maybe with a girl or whatever. And he picked up his Bible and he read whatever was coming next. And it was exactly the answer to what he was trying to find an answer for. And he was kind of blown away, and he realized, wow, so things that I read last week, they might be helping me a month from now, and that's kind of what happens. But so I think the faith, when the Bible talks about faith, it means that God is an invisible God. You can't physically see his body now until we die, then we'll be with him. But you can experience him, like you said, you can feel his presence, but we can physically see his word. And so the faith is in both the inner working, the relationship that God is having with you, the experiences, like you're saying, that you're having with him. But it's also faith in his word, that he was so kind to leave with us, that he inspired all these people for, thousands of years. It covers thousands of years of history. And it goes beyond history. It's these words, these pearls of teaching and wisdom. And, particularly I tell people, well, if you don't want to, I don't tell them dive into Genesis. I go read what Jesus himself says, right? Because Jesus claims to be the Son of God, come to mankind to enlighten us about God's heart. And people were really perverting faith or religion, or that time Judaism, and making it all about a bunch of rules. And I'm sorry to say that a lot of churches do that today, that Christianity is you come a bunch of do's and don'ts, and God never intended that. And Jesus went out of his way to show that is not what it is. It's all about loving the poor, loving those who are rejected, loving the rich, loving everybody, but that everybody's valuable, everybody's important, no matter where they're from or what stage of life or what handicap they've had, or, he just brings such love and care and healing and beauty to every single person. And that's what his message is. And that's why you read the things that he says and you go, oh, wow, okay, maybe I should treat my coworker a little different, or like, wow, he said, I forgive them though they know not what they do, right? He gave his very life for our sake. So how much more should we give that for others? So I don't know if I've explained it well, but that's how I see faith being both the invisible, the experience, like you're saying, as the Spirit of God works in us, and also the visible, the Word of God that we can depend on.
Yes. You answered my question. You actually went beyond that. So thank you. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's exactly the message of Jesus. Yeah, that's something that always resonated, especially the one about loving everyone and everything. So almost like being love itself. You can't help but just love. So that means the heart is open, the spiritual heart is open. Which is exactly how I see it. I know that your path, it comes across as something that I have understood as the devotional path, which is God's something separate from you. And then you're just very devotional to that concept, that idea of God, that it's illustrated through the Bible in your case. So and then the other path, the direct path, the one of knowledge. In the case, it will be my path. It's knowing. It's not a belief. It's not faith. I know. I don't know. You probably heard about something that says, stay still, we know, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in the Bible. I'm not sure, but I have heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that. It said,
be
stay
still and know that I am God. Yeah.
Yes, right. So to me, I almost see like quite more like know and then be still. So by knowing that the presence of God is always here, coming from that knowledge, then everything else is possible, because then hope opens the spiritual heart, and then you can't help it but just kind of see God everywhere. But you see, it's a little bit different, because in your cases, we are saying the same thing, really. We are arriving at the same destination, if there is one, which is really expressing love, the way we treat ourselves and others. In every way shows that. But it's the way to get there, it's a bit different for most of us. Like we talked earlier about the uniqueness of humans. So it's just different expression. We can't really do everything the same, obviously. But it feels to me like we are speaking the same language. He always does, especially when it comes to the ultimate message of loving everything and everyone as oneself. That to me is like,
definitely God put us here to know him and to reflect his love to other people. And the more that we're tuned into God, the more that we have like a oneness with him, because there's in Christianity, it's a little different than some of the religions, is there's the triune God, right? The Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. And they have this perfect union of love. And he draws us into that triune relationship, that we can experience that with him. And when you feel that kind of love from another, how much better and easier it is to express that to other people, right? So if you've never experienced love, it's really hard to express it. But that's the beauty. Like every day I wake up and I do spend time just meditating on God's word and just meditating, just finding peace in him. And then I take my dog for a walk, and I really enjoy nature. Really, I have a lot of that around me. And whether it's a squirrel or a chipmunk or, a tree or a flower or blade of grass, I just can just stare at it and just enjoy this little creature that God has made. And you'll see little special, unique habits or things or behaviors. And for me, it magnifies the greatness of God. Like one thing I never want to do is bring God down to human level, but to see that he is so transcendent. And, it's just crazy. You can see a little bug and its little unique abilities that the dog or the human can't do, and he just blows my mind. And I like Instagram too, all the animal ones. Like I got on a bunch of these bird ones, and I'm blown away. I'm like, you are so creative, God. I cannot even believe it. And it's and it makes you feel safer. Honestly, you know that there's this power, this greatness, this wisdom there that he lets you draw from, and it's got your back every minute. And it's really a peaceful experience.
Yes, you just brought that peace here in the now. I loved listening to you. It felt like a meditation to me, just listening to what you're saying. It resonates with the heart again. Yes, that is the, when we open the spiritual heart's eyes, then everything's, you see, it's different from a different, it seems like we are looking at reality from a different angle. That's what it is. And then everything seems so sacred. As you said, we just start to marvel. You're right. It's just, I get myself a lot of times into, what happens to me is just silence. I'm just in deep contemplation when I see an animal, the plants. I could just stay there forever, just kind of
Yeah.
And in silence, right? In contemplation of that presence, which I know that's the same as here. It's just a different expression of the same thing
Yeah.
in a way.
That's
So,
why I love traveling. I mean, every 2 months I go somewhere else. And, just being with people, 2 weeks ago I was in Africa, and just the way that the women who are coming out of abusive homes, poverty, just really difficult situations, health issues, you name it. And yet they come together and they dance uproariously, and I join in with them. And
yes.
one of the beautiful things you might like this, Valeria, I bring with me a crown, like a princess one.
Yeah.
And I line them up in 2 lines facing each other. And you might have 100 people, so 50 on each end. And then they just start singing. I'm like, ladies, sing a song. And they can just sing. They all know, they'll just repeatedly sing the same beautiful song. And I put it on, I start dancing down those, in the empty space to the first woman. I put the tiara on her head. Oh my goodness. She just beams, because, a lot of them their husbands have long ago left them and have 2, 3, 4 more wives, just things like that. And, but then they feel so special, and it's like, oh, God made me beautiful and I'm his princess, and they'll start dancing and doing this la, 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 la sound, and it's just the coolest experience. I'm like, wow. And everywhere I go, you just have these kind of experiences of seeing different ways that God meets with people and brings them joy and peace, no matter how much hardship's going on.
Wow. Yeah, another amazing expression of your work. Yes, I can feel the joy even. I mean, it's amazing how you're transmitting those energies here in this moment.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, it's truly beautiful. So this is the work, one of the works you do. I know you have written lots of books, and I will mention them in a moment. So the work that you just mentioned is Crown of Beauty International. So that's and then so you go traveling the world. Is that something that anyone can participate, even regardless of their, let's say, religious philosophies or understandings, or they have to be a Christian?
To come, we welcome everyone. We go to Bangladesh, that's predominantly Muslim, and in Hindu. We don't, what should I say, hide our faith. We make it very obvious that they're going to hear Jesus's message to them. But how they receive that's personal. That's up to them. And I find that it really encourages people, And so, we are, like I said, we go everywhere. We invite and are open to anybody to come. And then we always have breakout into discussion times. And we also offer prayer. And so it's really interesting. Like, I'll go into a Hindu village, for example, in Bangladesh, and they welcome us in. And same with a lot of the Muslim villages. And we say, I'd just love to pray for you. What's going on? What's your burden? What's the struggle you're going through? Let me pray for your family. Let me pray for your health. We'll see healings, And so, no, I don't say like, oh, you have to be a Christian, or I'm not going to pray for you, or no, absolutely not. Now, as far as if people want to come and be leaders with us, yes, because the actual teaching is you have to be familiar, obviously, with the Bible and Christian faith. But I don't know if does that answer your question? I hope.
It does, yeah. Okay, that's good. Wonderful to hear too. Yeah. So it doesn't create separation in a sense.
Not
can, right? There's no, you see, that's one of the things that as I mentioned off record, I was looking for, it could have been a religion, which it is now too. Vedanta. I'm a student of Vedanta, which is a Hindu philosophy, and it is a religion. But they don't create any separation. So their message is so profound. It resonates with my heart in the sense of union. So it's all about loving others, loving everything as you would love God in a devotional way. So it goes back to that over and over again, all the messages. So in that is something that I'm hearing from you too. So it's if you don't believe in Jesus, then you go to hell. Some people, I have heard that before, then you're not like me. So that creates, it's sad because it's so obvious that will create kind of the opposite effect, right? Than what Jesus really taught.
They're doing it out of fear, I guess, of what could happen to that person. I think the heart, the motive's okay, but the way it's communicated is, I don't think it's necessary to say that if that's how you feel. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have another good one if you want to record.
Oh, this. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I just wanted to share this beautiful thing. You said what's faith? Is it like just knowledge or experience? Okay. So let me tell you, the way or the reason I began Crown of Beauty International was, I was on a bus in China, actually, and very crowded. And I was frustrated with God because I was like, I came all the way here and I don't really have a way to have a platform to meet people and help them. And so he said, well, you write your life story and I'll bring the people. I literally heard that, like almost like audibly, but so strong. I knew it wasn't me in the middle of this crowded bus. So I did that. And so sure enough, I worked on it for 6 months, came up with these 4 messages. As soon as I finished, the very next day, I was at church and they had asked me kind of just to open the time with a short little testimony, and I did. And this woman walks up to me, she says, in a Texas accent, I won't try to imitate that, but she says, I just moved here and I'm an event coordinator, and if you'll be a speaker, I will put a group together. Like, okay. So sure enough, God told me, you write it and I'll bring these people. And so 90 women came. And the moment I walked in that platform, again, I heard this just as if it were audible, but it was just in my head, but so clear and separate from my thinking that this is what I want you to do the second half of your life. Well, I'm so blown away, Valeria. I'm like, what? That I couldn't sleep. So we had an extra room people could use just to go and pray. So I went into that room and I just began to pray, and I had a vision. And so in this vision, again, a vision's like when you see something visually, like you don't see anything else in front of you except this picture. It's like you're looking in a movie almost, but I guess it's in your head. I don't know, because all you're seeing is that. And it was a Muslim woman in the full hijab, and her eyes were covered, with the mesh. And so suddenly the spirit just took me right through the mesh. I could see her eyes, and they were so, so sad, Valeria. Not because of her faith, but just the way she was being treated, right? In her family by her husband and men. And right then, as God said, this is where you're to go, to this woman, to this, your ministry should go here, to set this woman free. And then he said, her outside won't change, but everything will change in her heart. And she'll have joy and healing and freedom. So go forward. I was in Asia for a long time, but when we moved back to America in 2016, the doors began to open for me all over the world. And so I was in Lebanon, and they asked me, it's a group that helps the refugees that are fleeing from Syria or wherever. So quite a few are Muslim. So they asked me to go speak to these women and share my story. So they gather all these women, and they're all, there might have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 Christians in there, but it was almost all Muslim. And I look out, I just started to cry hard. I could hardly speak. And I stopped and I said, you are the women that God told me. At this point, it had been 14 years ago, that this is where this ministry would come to. And I was so touched, and I just shared my story, how God helped me to really value and love myself. And so many women stayed for prayer, that we could pray over them, that they could be set free to really know God's love. And they call him Allah, right? To know God's love and how much he's loved by them, no matter how they're treated by the men outside of them. And sure enough, then 2 years after that, I went back, and this woman walks up to me. She doesn't have on a hijab, and just like Western clothes. And she says, I was in that meeting. I was the woman that you were speaking to, that you saw in your vision. I knew it. As soon as you said that, I heard God say, that's you. And it was so cool. Wow. She actually became a Christian, not with me, but after that, she just was so hurt by where Islam had gone in her country. That isn't true everywhere, but that she wanted to separate from that. But the main thing was just seeing how valuable she was in God's eyes and precious. And so it was really cool. So these are the kind of experiences I have.
Wow. Yes, powerful ones. Yeah. You see, those are experiences. Yes.
Yeah. It is, and very much.
Yeah. You see, very much. It's a you have evidence. It's almost like, that's what I love about the philosophy that I engage with, and that I study Vedanta, because it's almost like a combination of science and spirituality. So it doesn't separate anything, and it's really based on evidence. So experience. We're not looking to believe something that's, just, we don't want, which is not fair, as you may know, to tell somebody to believe something that they can't experience. So it's important to have our own, as you said, it's very personal. So we need to listen. It feels to me that way too, so that there's something about listening. So if we can, I know a lot of us need to be guided, and you are a wonderful guide. So you see, some people need that. And some of us, like myself, I'm so curious about, my own inner reality and what's happening. Then I became my own guide in a way. Of course, I'm not in a sense of intellectual way. So I'm always open, listening to everything. So that becomes my guide. Everything, people that I interact with, I'm always seeing what's the underlying message. What am I here to hear? What am I here to do, even with the messages that I hear? So I'm always paying attention. Of course, not to everything, impossible to be attuned to everything, but my heart is open. So I love the way you were open to, in a sense of trust, even trusting these messages that you heard. And I know some people, and I hear that so much too. And I think at some point I was thinking that way, God speaking to me, or an angel, or, we just give this, almost we give the credit to something out there. But it feels to me like it's already in us. It's, some might say it's coming from the heart, but I don't know if it is also inside of the body either. It's something that has been always here. It never left us in the first place, but I think most of us are not listening close enough, and that's why we miss those signs and those messages. But it's always here. So I wanted to mention the website to find more information about the work that you do, crownofbeautyinternational.com. Yes. And you also have another website, sue-corl.com. So I have those two links. Will be on the podcast notes.
Yeah.
So there's something else that will be important. I have too many notes here for this conversation, but let me go back to your book. So you have written 7 books. The latest one is Shaking Off the Shackles, and the one that we've been talking about in a way, about the message that you have expressed, are in the book Crown of Beauty, a 12-week women's Bible study, renewed in His intimate love in the light. And then you have another one that's same title with a leader's guide um, before the subtitle. So that's, but we can find that on Amazon. I'll have the links here too. So talk to me about these 2 books, the latest one, Shaking Off the Shackles, and The Crown of Beauty. Are they the same message in a way, or somehow different?
Well, The Crown of Beauty is takes you through both Bible, some, and then also some really deep personal questions. It's almost like having a counselor with you,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And we like to teach it in groups or one-on-one, which I'm actually willing to do with people if they go on our website and just, go on to contact, and they can tell me they're interested. Then, like, I'm just starting another group on Tuesday. It's a 12-week group, so it's pretty neat. So how the other one is a little different is I actually wanted to write a memoir, okay, and where it's my whole life, my journey, because I've just had a lot going on from the time of birth, and it's encouraging, to hear how God has been at work. First keeping me alive because they sent me home to die from the hospital. But God did not have that. I had a mother who was a nurse and managed to find a way to keep me alive, get me strong enough to take me back for the first surgery. So all the way up until current is in the book. But the editor, she said, well, we're only doing memoirs of people like Oprah, really famous people right now. And so it's an integration of both my life story integrated into teaching people how they can experience that journey with God. And so quite a bit of it is also practical. There's a section that just talks about even grief and how to work through grief, because I've had plenty of that in my life as well, losing some significant people I love. And just throughout, and some real practical things, how to grow in your relationship with God. Yeah, so it's a combination, but I'm really excited about it. It comes out in September because it's more a compilation of my whole journey through life.
Yes, that's wonderful to know. That'll be in September. Okay, I'll make a note here. So to have that note too, I can add to the podcast notes for this podcast if we don't meet again. So that's really another beautiful, I call them almost like, let's say, jewels, gifts, to humanity. So your story, it's interesting because the Bible is the story of Jesus. So there's something about stories that they're very powerful. I remember kind of being divided in a way. You see, I like the union thing, but there's something about the story that sometimes stories can be used to, by some people, I guess, to separate us, right? To create more division. But there's so much power in telling our stories in a very honest way, in a deep way. So thank you for what you're doing. And I know it's not easy too, Sue. It's not easy to do that. Go back to the past and, write all the details. Because I know you mentioned, as we know, we've been touched by deep suffering. And it's my case too. So it's not emotionally, psychologically, we need to be very strong. But, when you have when your heart has been opened the way your heart is, then it's, in a way, we feel supported, don't we? And it's not the same. The psychological, the emotional, let's say, weight doesn't really, it's not as heavy. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah. In fact, our first conference is called Beauty for Ashes. And it's really where God just takes those difficult things in our life, the ashes, and he transforms them into something beautiful where you can actually love others better, help them, bring healing into their lives as well.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have some water? So, oh, you do. Oh, great. Oh. So, yes, is that we call it transformation. Some call integration. So I don't really don't know what the terms would be for that, but it just feels so much lighter. And I kind of play with that word light in a sense of also being more joyful, isn't it? Like it's not in a sense of not taking things seriously, but there are parts of us or memories from the past that are not really, they're the past anyway. So why are we holding on to them? So in that case, it's wonderful when we can shed some light on those areas and those parts of us and then let them go in a way. So I want to mention the titles of your other books, and hopefully I have all of them here. Broken but Undefeated, Journeying Through the Hall of Faith. And then For Such a Time as This, Walking Through Crisis. And then More Beautiful by the Day, a devotional. Oh, a devotional. I don't have the rest here for some reason. I apologize. And then Mission Impossible. Did I mention all of the title of your books?
I got them. Thank you.
I did. Oh, good. So these are the titles, and I'll have them here. I'll have the Amazon page. I'll have your websites too. Is there anything? I guess one. Oh, yeah. Before I ask because I have unconventional questions here, but in the ending questions. But before that, is there anything that you'd like to add? Anything that you left unsaid that you'd like to express?
Yeah, one of the things that we highlight in our conference is helping people to come to see that when we go through painful things, they obviously present in us painful emotions. But it's an opportunity, sadly, where then our minds can often go to lies about ourselves or about others or about our Creator. And that is the greatest pain, honestly, like what we went through is a horrific pain, but the lies that come out of that we believe are what really oppress us through our life. The experience is gone, but the oppression continues. And so what we desire is to help people discover what those lies are, because we don't even realize most of the time that we're believing them. And even if we realize that we don't think it's a lie, we think it's a truth, because if you believe it long enough, it becomes your truth. And unfortunately, what comes out of those lies are protective behaviors that can be very destructive. They can be addictions. They can be the way that we treat others. It can be that we go towards isolation and become very lonely. There's different ways that we respond to those past pains and to those lies, and that puts us in bondage. So our message, really our theme, even in my podcast, His Heartbeat, even though we talk about everything under the sun, all kinds of topics. But often it's interesting how often even we might be talking about nutrition, or I know a lot of the same topics that you talk about in your show. Still, well, what lies are we believing that drive us to foods maybe that we know we shouldn't eat, or that we are so down on ourselves because we're overweight, or whatever, there's a lot of things like that. And so in our message, we really try to help people both find those lies, but then replace them with very positive, truthful messages that you are valuable, that you are special, that you are enough, that you can do it, that, there's just so many wonderful truths that we go through. actually on my resource page in the website, you can go on that and you can find that list of lies followed by 6 pages of truths, that you can meditate on. And we, through that, can get free from some of those behaviors that we really feel in bondage to, that we don't want to have, whether it's rage with our kids or, depression. That's not a bad behavior of ours, but it's a result, right? And God can bring us free from that as we begin to walk in the truth. So that's kind of my parting word, because that's a theme that threads through all that I do.
Yes, one that very much resonates deeply with me. The truth will set you free, right?
Yeah.
That's one of
them. Lots of Bible verses.
I do, yeah, simple ones. Only like
but they're powerful.
Tiny... They're powerful.
Yeah.
Yes.
A
billion
those
times.
Mantras yourself from your religion. Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Because they all come together. I'm always kind of because of my let's say, my devotion to truth, I'm always like looking deeper into everything, like the Christianity and then Hinduism and Vedanta, all these religions, even Buddhism, all of them. What is the underlying truth here? What are they all trying to say? And then in the end, I find that they're all trying to say the same thing, really. One of the questions that we're almost at the end, but I have to ask this question now. So I love that you don't really stop at faith. So it's also practical. I see that, the nutrition and the way we treat ourselves as in lifestyle, all that is important too. So I guess the question is, that was one that's very important for me, because my path has been always spiritual. So I never did therapy or anything like that. So I wanted to find out the truth, and that had to be spiritual for some reason. So do you feel that by knowing the truth, or by being exposed to truth through your message and your work, it's enough to set somebody free, in a sense, from emotional pain in their past experiences? So, or sometimes you do recommend therapy or the healing modalities?
Well, I would say I am a trained counselor as well, and I would say I integrate therapy into it. I think, yes, truth can set us free, but in that, finding that truth might, mean an encounter. Well, I don't know, there's different therapies, but and different names for them. But, I just walked through that with somebody today, where we did a visualization of she has anxiety disorders, and, okay, let's get into that situation, and let's have a visualization of let God come into you in that. Where is he? What kind of peace is he bringing to you? What is he speaking to you? What is he doing? Okay, let's look around at your environment, the nature. Where can you find peace? So, but it's integrated. I really do believe deep in my heart, and why I have nutritionists and exercise people and therapists and something people like that on my show, is because we're holistic beings, right? And physical, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, they all work together. They're all one. You are one being, right? And so if for example, I had cancer in 2018, and I remember I came home from surgery, from mastectomy, and they gave me all these drugs. I hate drugs, it's like, and I could not connect to God. And I thought, I'd rather be in so much physical pain, but be able to connect to God. So I'm not using any drugs, and because, they're integrated, right? Our if you want to call it faith, or if you want to call it, experience with God, as well as physically. And so I have a health coach. She's been on my show, actually. And my daughter is also a health coach, so she's on my show too. But And when God wants us to take care of our body. He made us incredible beings, and when we are physically our best, then we can be emotionally our best, relationally our best. Our work can be the best. I mean, it's not that simple, but that's a part of it, right? That's a part of how we come to that place of being all that we can be. In fact, part of our mission statement for Crown of Beauty is to help people to come, communities, families, individuals, to come to a place of their the best, their God-given best, how God created them to be. And so that's why I have that kind of diversity on my show.
Yes, I love that. What's not to love about that? Yes, because it is the integration, and like you said, it's one unit, is one. Talk about three, body, mind, spirit, or even the Trinity. But in the end, it's one, isn't it? The expression of God, it comes through the body, mind, intellect, right, emotions, everything. And one of the things that I noticed myself, it's that I'm very careful around, and I'm always paying attention, is the lack of conflict. So I don't want one part of me to be in conflict with another. So the emotions, the thoughts, and then the body. So it's amazing when I feel that everything's in alignment. And you're right. I would rather be in pain, physical pain, than not feel that presence, that unconditional presence of God, as you call it, which I use the word God too. It might not be in the same way of separate from me, but it's just, I can't find it a word that takes the mind directly to that, which we can, I cannot even, there's no word for really, but God would be that'll be the closest, the direct way of kind of interacting with that energy, with that, was not even an energy, gosh, it's beyond all that.
Yeah.
So yes, I love that you're doing that too, because it felt very conflicted to me before. I used to be a fitness trainer, and I used to separate everything. It didn't make sense to me that I was so fit, that I was so healthy physically, but emotionally and psychologically, I was completely lost. And in the past, dwelling in my in the traumas and all that. And then the message "Fit for Joy" came to me as an insight, very deep insight, that I was already fit for joy. I didn't have to be physically fit to be worth that amazing love, unconditional love. So that changed everything. That's why this platform is called Fit for Joy. But I never let go of the physical, taking care of myself and all that too. So I love that, Sue, that you're doing. Yeah, it's everything, right? Kind of balancing in a way, creating that harmony, right? Within body, mind, and spirit.
Yeah, I love that you say already fit for joy, because, that's it, right? That we have all the potential. It's there, and God wants to bring that out of us. That's why, I'm a big believer in bringing healing into people's lives.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much again for your beautiful work, for being opening your heart to humanity the way you have. I know it's a lot of work. It's not easy to do what you do, but thank you. Thank you for doing what you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you for this podcast and these beautiful conversations.
Oh my God, I love them. So I can't help it. I have to have those conversations. So we'll be in touch soon. I'll have the links to your books and again, your website. Let me go back to my notes here. crownofbeautyinternational.com and sue-corl.com. I'll have all the links on the podcast notes. You take care of your beautiful self and we'll talk soon. We'll be in touch again. Bye for now, Sue.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Sue Corl and her work, please visit crownofbeautyinternational.com and sue-corl.com.
more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.